Cool, that's working. So as a reminder, the paper is due today for all of you in here. You can turn it in up front if you want, or if you want to email it to me, you're welcome to. Those of you online, I think I've gotten some from 104 online. I've got, like I said, like 60 102 students, so they've been flooding my inbox. When you send it to me online, please attach it as a Word document or a PDF document or some way that I can immediately access it. Do not simply share the Google Drive or Google Docs or whatever. That was before my time. Because the Francis Marion email doesn't like it, especially if you try to, and I've had people link it to me through the email. Especially if you try to do that through your high school email, the Francis Marion email does not like that. If I have to go through some kind of access where I send a code and you have to send it back and all this other crap, that's going to take me extra time, and I've got 60 other papers I've got to grade besides the ones in person. So just make it so I can access it right away so that I can grade it, move on to the next one. If it gets caught in the filter because you try to share it, or it gets lost in the shuffle, I'm sorry, you didn't do it. You didn't send it like I told you to send it. If you hand it to me in person, it's going to get to me. Those of you that are online, obviously you have to send it to me online, but I've got a lot of them that got sent to me correctly, and I've got them and they're not going anywhere. So just make sure that you attach it in some way that I can immediately access it. That's all I ask. I will do my best to get them graded over the break, because again, if you haven't been paying attention, next week is spring break for Francis Marion, so I won't be here, and therefore I won't be, I'm sure as heck not going to be doing classes from home. So we'll be having class next week. We'll be back on the 26th, I think is it that late? Hold on. No, that's not right. The 16th. The brain. Let me find my calendar. Oh, cool. No, not cool. I was like, oh, they gave us St. Patrick's Day off. They didn't. We're back on St. Patrick's Day. Rude. My Irish blood cries. But they gave us the week after daylight savings time off, so my old butt gets to adjust to that. That's nice. That's what Francis Marion does, is they give us the week after daylight saving off, both the spring and the fall, so that us old professors can adjust. Yeah, so that's what's happening. Based on how much we've got left, this is going to be a short class, and when we come back after break, we're going to review. And then we'll be taking our next test. So that's that. Also, since today is when the first paper is due, I'll go ahead and mention the second paper, which that topic is also on Blackboard, or on the syllabus. The default topic is who started World War I? The accepted answer, at least after World War I, was it was Germany's fault, which is an acceptable answer. But I took a course for that period, and other acceptable answers are pretty much anybody involved. Austria was all, when we get to it, if you're not very familiar with the start of World War I, this might not be as obvious to you, but Austria was obviously very aggressive. Serbia also was pretty aggressive. Russia kind of wanted to be involved, and even France and England that like came in later, or at least at the end of the war started, or at the end of everything's beginning to begin. Um, they could have tried to stop the war more than they did, but everybody in Europe kind of wanted to go to war. Um, hey, that's fine. You can email it. That's totally fine. As long as it's like a Word document or a PDF document, so that I can just easily access it. Yeah, sending it by email is totally fine. Not a problem. Be safe out there. Um, yeah. So, yeah, it's just like World War One. Who you think started the war? Just like give me reasoning behind that. Again, there's no real wrong answer as long as you're talking about Europe. Because America obviously didn't start. We were barely there. We got in like 1917. Um, but of course, you can talk about really anything from, well, Napoleon until really World War II, because we're going to get up to World War II before the semester ends, hopefully. Um, so yeah, any questions from you guys before we get into stuff? All good? All right. So, let's. So we finished with Italian unification, which, like I said, was real weird. Um, it kind of shouldn't have happened the way that it did. Cavour and Victor Emmanuel II up north, and Giuseppe Garibaldi down south, who was himself like anti-monarchist, and they met in the middle, and they were all prepared to go to war. And then Garibaldi's like, yeah, you know what? Victor Emmanuel seems fine. He can be king. And so that was it. And Italy became Italy. Eventually, they took Venice, or Venetia, which is like the land around Venice, Venice itself just being the city, and the Papal States in 1870, which is what we'll talk about here in just a minute. Yeah, so we've got Italy now, and there's Cavour, which, like I said, there's obviously Cavour and Emmanuel II and Garibaldi were all involved, but if we're going to talk about one person, it's going to be Cavour, because that's easier for us, a multiple choice question. German unification. This is a longer one, because, well, I find it really interesting. Also, it's really long in the book. Prussia, which we've talked about for the last couple of chapters now, it was attempting to pull away from, before Prussia was trying to pull away from Austrian authority, and Austria called in Russia to help out, and, well, you can't fight Austria and Russia at the same time. Prussia already tried that, and they very nearly were completely destroyed. It was only thanks to Peter III being an idiot that Prussia exists. So when Russia rolled in again, Prussia's like, okay, we're not going to do this. And they signed the Treaty of Olmütz, which was really embarrassing. I mean, it's called The Embarrassment at Olmütz in the book, which was not well liked by the Germans, obviously. So the Prussian military began to build, and Otto von Bismarck was elected as chancellor. So he used what's known as realpolitik, where he started to give specific groups the right to vote in order to get the votes that he wanted. Is very, well, as the book here calls it, a cynical, subversive version of suffrage. So again, giving specific groups the right to vote, and to get him what he wanted. 1864, after building up the industries in Prussia, he provoked a war with Denmark over Schleswig and Holstein, and they beat the crap out of Denmark. So they took Schleswig and Holstein, which were like major, I think they either had coal or iron or both, um, which Prussia needed for its further buildup. I don't think the book actually goes into when he made his speech, so I'll go ahead and do it now. Otto von Bismarck made a very famous speech called the Blood and Iron speech, where he said, in order to unify Germany, or the Germany will be unified through blood and iron, which is to say, through war and industry. Blood for war, iron for industry. Well, they're doing the war to get the iron. Well, actually, they did the iron first to do the war to get more iron, to do more war. 1866, there was a 3-week war against Austria. That's not a very long war. That's not even a month. Austria, again, is supposed to be like the big dog in that region, but this is post Croatian War, so Austria can't call on Russia anymore. Remember we talked about that last time too. So now Austria is by itself, and Prussia is showing just how hard they can fight. So they beat the stuffing out of Austria in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, this is when Italy took Venetia, as well as Lombardy, and Hungary began pushing for semi-autonomy, which is what I've mentioned before, where Hungary is like basically its own country. They just share like an emperor, a minister of war, and I think a currency. They might not even have the same currency. They're barely the same country, Austria-Hungary. I mean, it's in the name. It's 2 separate names even. So then, Otto von Bismarck engineered a political crisis because he wasn't done. So once again, Spain didn't have anyone in the Spanish family to go on the Spanish throne. I don't know, man. The Spanish royal family just like kept running out of people. So a Prussian prince was offered the Spanish throne. Napoleon III demanded that the prince renounce the ties, and Kaiser Wilhelm I sent him a telegram from his spy in Ems that basically said, "Yeah, that's cool. We're not interested." Well, Otto von Bismarck intercepted the telegram. Actually, got a hold of both telegrams, but he intercepted the one coming back from Wilhelm, edited it, and leaked both. Basically, the one that got sent back to Russia, the one that got sent back to France, made it sound like Kaiser Wilhelm was insulted by Napoleon, and that they were going to put the Prussian prince on the throne, and in fact, they were going to unite Prussia and Spain and destroy France and like all this crap that was never going to happen. And the letter that was sent by Napoleon was edited and leaked to the to the Prussian people, well, to the German people, to all of the German people, to make it look like Napoleon had insulted the Kaiser and how he was treating them like dirt. It's like, oh, you weak Germans, you don't deserve to be on the world stage, and how dare the Spanish offer you the throne? You don't even deserve the dirt that you stand on, and all this other crap. So basically, he engineered the Franco-Prussian War, which beat the crap out of the French. Now, the book just mentions the short Franco-Prussian War, which I can't abide by, because it is such a, I hate to say a funny war, but it was a pretty funny war. It does also have like an entire sidebar on it, so we're going to talk about that in the next slide. So, France did also have to pay 5 billion gold francs to Prussia, which I don't know how much a franc is, but it's made out of gold, so it's probably pretty expensive. And also they lost Alsace and Lorraine. Remember that from like Louis XIV? Well, now it's back in German hands. Oh, you're good. That's fine. Thank you. I can get that too, no problem. Ooh, put your name on it. It's fine. Yeah. So here is Otto von Bismarck. He's very much the old grizzled Prussian diplomat. Also, let's see, is that the next? Oh, he had some fun quotes. If you like laws and sausages, you should never watch either one being made. If you've ever seen a sausage being made, you would know what he's talking about. It is kind of gross. Yeah. Here he is with Napoleon III after. Which battle was this? Is that this picture is actually at the start of the chapter. Here we are. After the Battle of Sedan. Oh yeah. Thank you. So this is Napoleon and or Napoleon III and Otto von Bismarck discussing the terms of Napoleon's surrender, because not only were the French defeated at the battle, Napoleon was captured. The Emperor of France was captured at this battle. Also, the day that this battle happened is a national holiday in Germany known as Sedan Day, where they beat the stuffing out of the French. And they don't have to feel guilty about it because it wasn't the Nazis. Yeah, it was just good old-fashioned Germans whooping up on the French. And it was fine. Also, when I was making this PowerPoint for the first time, my mom found a cat, and I ended up with this cat, so I named him Otto. He had about half a brain cell. He was a window licker. He was very sweet, but not very bright. Hey, everybody's here. Thank you. So, the Franco-Prussian War as a whole, because again, I have to talk about it more than just the Franco-Prussian War happened, and it didn't go well for France. So, the Prussians were far more ready for war than the French were. They had issued the world's first dog tags, for example. So, if a soldier were killed in battle and you couldn't really identify them because this was at the point where they had cannons and explosives and stuff that would remove your face, you at least would still have dog tags to know who the soldier was. The French, though, were confident that their seasoned troops and superior marksmanship would win the war. I don't know how seasoned their troops were because we haven't had much of a war lately. I guess they had been fighting in northern Africa. We'll get more into that next chapter. But against the Algerians, which weren't European soldiers. So the Prussians were expected to take 7 weeks to deploy, because again, it took a long time to mass your troops and get them ready and to muster them and deploy them into battle. So the French were taking their time and weren't too happy when the Prussians were at the French border in 2 weeks as opposed to 7 weeks. That is more than a month early. Uh, by mid-August, the war was pretty much completely on French soil. Um, Interestingly enough, this actually gave the Prussians a terrain advantage because the French troops had only been given maps of Prussian territory because the belief was we're so superior, we're only going to be fighting in Prussia. So the French, who, to be fair, were like from all over France, though they were fighting in France, most of them didn't actually know where they were in terms of like the terrain. Because, if, say, we were to be fighting here in America, but we were to go up to like Minnesota. I don't know what Minnesota looks like. Not great. uh, you know where you're from, but not just because you're in the same country. Also, ironically, the Prussians had been given maps of the French terrain, like the French had been given maps of Prussian terrain, so the Prussians knew the area they were fighting in, at least map-wise. Hundreds of thousands of French troops were taken prisoner, including, as I mentioned, Napoleon III after the Battle of Sedan on September 2nd, which became Sedan Day in Germany, which is now a national holiday. Which, like I said, they can feel good about beating up on the French and not have to worry about it being during a different war where they don't talk about. That said, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in just a minute, there was French resistance once the Prussians encircled Paris, because once Napoleon was captured, the Second Empire fell and the Third Republic began. And so, like, this new government fought entirely differently, but then it was just like all guerrilla warfare around Paris. Because again, like this idea of, the French are weak and they all surrender is from World War II when the Blitzkrieg came in and just like ran over the French. But the French resistance kept up through the entire war, and they killed a lot of Germans. So that mindset has never not been a thing in France. They've always had guerrilla fighters and resistance that just never stopped. Which is why, for example, those of you that might have been here last semester, the 100 Years' War, like the English were winning that war, but they could never completely win that war because the French would never just let it in. So they were finally just like, okay, we're leaving. So here we have, I think this is Sedan. I mean, people just like shooting from buildings and stuff. I mean, this is just chaos. This isn't your Napoleonic standing in a line and shooting at each other. This is not quite World War I level stuff yet, but we're getting there. Oh, also this fun map. So you can see in the green is the German army movements. The red, yes, there are red lines on this map, is the Imperial army movements. And then the blue is the Republican French movements. Because, again, once our boy Napoleon got captured in Sedan, which is right up here, the French Empire fell and the French Republic rose again and then tried to do stuff, but it didn't exactly last. Speaking of, as we said, Napoleon was captured. The French Republicans in Paris declared the Second Empire dead, and thus the Third Republic of France is now a thing. Again, the French just new government is now a thing because the old like, oh, the old leader is like out of the house. Turn over the tables. New government. Leaders of the Republic then fled Paris as the Prussians advanced. So the remaining defenders radicalized and opposed the government that wouldn't defend their capital. So technically, the people in the capital were no longer even the French Republic, they were the Paris Commune. So after Paris was, well, once the French left, or sorry, once the Prussians left and the war was over, the French army marched on Paris in 1871, and the defenders stated they were subject to the Paris Commune, not the French government. So in May, so they waited like 2 months. May 21st, 1871, the French troops stormed the city, and 25,000, wow, that's an extra zero I put in there. 25,000 Parisians died by firing squad or guillotine. Because I guess if they can't kill Prussians, they'll kill their fellow French. Jesus. So the Third Republic was very hostile towards the working class, which very nearly led to another uprising against the Third Republic. And this is interesting. Due to the Franco-Prussian War, due to being just like curb stomped by Prussia and what is now Germany, because following the Franco-Prussian War, it became Germany. France, which had been this revolutionary power, this bastion of revolutionary thought, allied with Russia in the 1890s, which is the polar opposite, in order to contain Germany. They were both afraid of this growing power in the center of Europe, where there had once been like Austria, I guess, and then just a bunch of little states that didn't really get along. Now it's this one mass, and they're afraid of that. So they're allied together. I will get into some of the reasons they unified. I guess this next chapter, because after the next chapter is World War I, right? Let me check. Oh no, it's Modern Society, so maybe it'll be the chapter after next. But anyway, it'll be after, obviously, the test. But we'll go into this weird, this odd alliance a little bit later, because it's not just we're both afraid of Germany. We should work together. They did have some cultural things that united them. Hey, look, they're blocking the road. These big boulevards that were specifically built so they couldn't block the road, they're blocking the road. And look what they're using. The freaking paving stones again. I really love the Parisians sometimes. I mean, again, ready-made trench, really strong fortification, and when they're done, they've left a mess. Beautiful. I mean, look at those blocks. These aren't bricks. These are blocks. These are big blocks. That's so good. All right. Now, despite the fact that Germany is seen as the best case for this unification, it wasn't all, beer and lederhosen, I guess. Germany still had its own internal problems. There was a large Catholic minority, which was causing issues for the conservative Protestant majority. So Bismarck engaged in Kulturkampf, which is culture war. to rein in religion and try to keep everybody working together. He was less successful in getting rid of the socialist parties in Germany. By 1890, Kaiser Wilhelm II legalized the SPD, or Social Democratic Party Deutschlands, which became the largest socialist party in Europe, which, again, going back to like Marx and Engels, these were the sort of countries where the socialist revolutions were supposed to happen, the ones that were big and like industrialized, not whatever Russia was doing. Like Russia doesn't industrialize until like World War II. They barely have a train before World War II. And one of the main things about the idea of like a workers' revolution is you need workers, like industrial workers, and Russia had peasant farmers. So yeah, it didn't quite work. Now, Bismarck was a Junker, or a conservative landowner, but he did push a number of liberal reforms. But despite the fact that he was really doing the best for Germany, he was dismissed by Wilhelm II, who began steering Germany towards the early 20th century that was focusing on encirclement by France and Russia and the potential for a two-front war. Boy, that sounds like a thing that we might know about that's going to happen before too long. I mean, in history, not like now, I hope. I'm not thinking of anything in the present day that's like a two-front war. But yeah, actually, early in Bismarck's tenure as chancellor, put all the right letters in there. He actually did like warn about the dangers of a two-front war and how it could really rip Europe apart. Before Germany was even a thing, before any of these wars that turned Prussia into the United German Empire, and this douchebag didn't listen because he's inbred and thinks he knows everything. And well, we'll talk about World War I a little bit later, or the Great War as they call it over there in Europe. Because again, I'm a historian and largely Europeanist, so I can call it whatever I want. So one more thing here. So Italy and Germany were unifying, but a lot of places were dissolving. Bulgaria, which was still under Ottoman control, tried to rise up. The Ottomans didn't appreciate that. And their reprisals, which became later known as the Bulgarian Horrors, shocked Europe and pushed Russia into actually invading the Ottoman Empire, which, when an atrocity against like a lesser group of people causes Russia to invade, that's saying something, because Russia's pretty big on like doing atrocities to ethnic minorities. As we mentioned, Hungary took advantage of the Austro-Prussian War, but rather than breaking away, it pushed for this dual monarchy. Okay, so there wasn't three things. It's just the emperor and minister of war. So they've got the same emperor, and if Austria goes to war, Hungary goes to war, but other than that, they're their own country. They speak their own language. I guess they've got their own currency. They've got their own minister of trade. They've got their own, trade deals and pretty much everything. But technically, they've got the same emperor as Austria. That's about the only thing they share in common. That said, though, just because Hungary is now technically all but independent, not all was well. There was still many ethnic groups within the empire: the Czechs, Croatians, Southern Slavs, all wanting their independence, and this is not including the like half dozen other groups that aren't mentioned right here. I've got like a huge list that we talk about a little bit later, which led to all sorts of ethnic cleansings whenever one group would gain power over the others and then just attempt to wipe them out. Now, ethnic cleansing is basically genocide. It doesn't just mean, and also genocide doesn't just mean kill all the people. It also means take them from where they are and move them to a different place. Like, hey, this place that you've lived in for like generations, you don't live here anymore. We're going to uproot you from where you are and just like throw you out, and you figure it out from there, because we want this place to be ours. Yeah. Not going to say too much about that, but that's a word that's probably going to be thrown around here in the next, I'd say, 6 months. Yeah. Let's turn a war zone into the Riviera in the Middle East. So, yeah. This, and also, I should also mention that this, but not so much Hungary, but like Southeastern Europe, the Baltic states. We'll talk more about this a little bit more later. But like this region has remained really, really bad, pretty much up until the modern day. Like there's constantly these little ethnic groups that are caught within other countries, and they are brutalized and, well, ethnically cleansed, for lack of a better word. It's real bad. Again, I don't have better words for that. And I can't really say it started here. It certainly gets worse from this, but it's something that has stuck around. So this is the end of the chapter. I do have a short little video to show you guys, just to kind of go along with Otto von Bismarck. I would have shown it earlier, but since this is also an online class, I'll wait to the end. So for you online folks, I will put the video online with the timestamp. Just go until the punchline. You'll know it when you see it. And yeah, so we're off next week. So I'll see y'all. Let me pull up the date again just to make sure. The 17th, yeah, because it's St. Patrick's Day. How dare they make me work on my people's day. I'll see y'all then. All right. Bye.